Ayusin ko after this. Bayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, kaya sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatang tulog sa simoy at sa langit ng pagkaw, ay yun ang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad, ulit na buhay na nagiging, ang inuwin at araw niya, kailan pa may magiging, lupa ng araw ng walhagin pagsingka, buhay ng isang piling mo, ang inigaya ng pagkay ng amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Before we start our webinar, here are some reminders and guidelines for our virtual participants. First, please observe proper webinar and video conferencing etiquette. Also, please change your settings to speaker view. We are also kindly requesting all participants to turn off their video. You may post your questions regarding the lectures through the link flashed in your screen. Alternatively, you may also post your questions through the chat box in your Zoom console. Lastly, details on how to get your e-certificates will be flashed at the end of the webinar. We expect your adherence to these guidelines. Thank you very much. A warm welcome to all our virtual participants. This webinar is brought to you by the Biorisk Association of the Philippines in collaboration with the Philippine Association of Medical Technologists. Laboratories operating under international quality and safety standards are essential for strong health systems. The presentations will focus on the safety culture in the laboratory and the latest standards specifically for laboratories, how we can apply it into our laboratory services, and the current trends and updates applicable to them. Let us all welcome our moderator for this webinar. A Biorisk management expert and advocate, an IFBA biosafety hero and the founding and incumbent president of BRAP, Dr. Miguel Martin Moreno II.
Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure to be moderator for this webinar session, as the topic laboratory safety was one of our dicta as a pathologist during my residency training for 5 years, until I shifted career to being a research scientist for 13 years, still with that dictum. And my last 5 years before retirement as a quality and patient safety manager, still abiding by the same dictum of laboratory safety. With that teaser for an introduction, I formally welcome every viewer and listener on Zoom and on Facebook live streaming to this webinar, our 6th in the PAMET BRAP joint project. Stay tuned, Facebook viewers, as we have a treat surprise for all of you, which I will mention after the two presentations. With that, I give you our Assistant Secretary, Ariel Aquino, to give the opening remarks.
Good evening from the Philippine Islands to all our viewers. I am Ariel Angelo Aquino, founding and incumbent Assistant Secretary of the Biorisk Association of the Philippines, more known as BRAP. I officially welcome you to this 6th BRAP-PAMET International Webinar. I have the honor of opening this webinar because our President volunteered to be our moderator for this evening, and our Vice President, Sir Ronnie Puno, begged out because he's feeling a bit under the weather. For tonight's webinar, we have requested laboratory quality. Both will be properly introduced in a short while. I wish to thank in advance our two experts who will enlighten us on their presentations. On behalf of Europe and our partner PAMET, I wish you all a fruitful webinar tonight.
It is my pride and pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening. Our first speaker is a graduate of BS Medical Technology and earned her master's and doctor of philosophy degree in biological sciences from the Royal Pontifical University of Santo Tomas in Manila. She is a founding officer of the Bioris Association of the Philippines and holds the position of secretary for 2 terms now. At present, our first speaker is a member of the Advisory Council of PAMET, Committee Chair, and the Continuing Professional Development Board Member of the International Federation of Biomedical Scientists, Treasurer of Asia Pacific Federation of Clinical Biochemistry and Laboratory Medicine, and member of the Department of Health COVID Laboratory Expert Panel. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce one of the pillars of BRAP, Dr. Laila Lani Monserrat Florento.
Thank you very much, Doc Martin, for the kind introduction. Can you hear me loud and clear? Good evening, everybody from the Philippines participants. Good morning in Toronto, and good afternoon for the participants in other parts of the world. I would like to share my where is it? Share screen. All right, my topic for this evening is about laboratory safety culture. Why? All right. The outline of my topic will include the laboratory safety, what is safe culture, the types of safety, the systematic approach to improve safety performance, the accident causing factors, and the human behavior and attitude. Okay, are you ready? I'll start. Safety culture is not going to happen overnight, but let's not wait for accidents to happen. Did this happen in your lab? Safety in the laboratory is everyone's responsibility. Safety is freedom from danger or harm. Nothing is free of danger, but we can almost always make something safer. Safety is better defined as a judgment of the acceptability of risk. Like, for example, the medtechs collecting samples from COVID patients. We know it is risky, but we can do it safely as long as the rules in place, we follow the rules, it's in place to protect us, that's the engineering and administrative control. The equipment is in place to protect us, that's the engineering and PPE. We have the training in place to protect us, that's administrative. And from this, we can perceive that the benefits will outweigh the risk. What is laboratory safety? It is the application of safety and containment measures, the practices, the equipment, the facilities to minimize or prevent exposure from hazardous or infectious agents to the person handling it in the lab, the building occupants, the workers, the patients, and the environment. What is a safe culture then? It's a set of core values and behaviors that emphasize safety as priority. It is expressed through what is said and done through behavior. A culture is the sum total of the way things are done in an institution. So therefore, culture means it includes the values and beliefs. Safety is a critical component of quality, and there are two primary dimensions involved. One is quality, and there are three domains under quality. We have the safety, the services, the customer, and the second dimension is about the external environment, which involves the regulatory or the legislative domain. The principle of quality in medical laboratories testing for safety, this is the mantra for quality. The right test result at the right time on the right specimen from the right patient with the right interpretation based on correct reference data and at the right price. So this is what you see always when you talk of quality in medical laboratory testing, and this is also true for safety. There are different types of laboratory safety. I know for this period, for this pandemic, we're always talking about biosafety, but that's not the only safety we have in the laboratory. So we have the environmental safety, the chemical safety, the hazardous waste safety, equipment installation safety, the electrical safety, blood safety, sanitation, infection control safety, and biological safety is only one of those. There are 9 essential parts for a safety culture. So we will deal mostly on the systematic approach to improve safety performance. And these are the 9 essential parts. One is demonstrates management involvement, staffing for safety, safety education involving orientation and specialized training, encourages worker involvement, evaluation and recognition or reward, planning, pre-project and pre-task, drug and alcohol testing, the 3 Ps, the policies, procedures, and programs, and accident or incident investigation. So we will discuss this one by one. Let's start with the management involvement. The old way is we always say we need management commitment, but the new way is we need management involvement. So you can see from the figure here that it's it cascades a responsibility, the structure, procedure, and policies, but this involves the management. And the management involvement will have to be continuous because they review the policies, the planning, implementation of the operation, and this is needed for continual improvements. Management involvement in the old way, they say safety is number 1 priority. But the new way now is safety is an integral part of business success. Management should be accountable for being role models, do as I do, safety inspection at least monthly, safety orientation and training, investigation of the accident or incident, and planning for safety issues. The second element is about staffing for safety. So it's important that each institution form safety committee. So we have the safety officer necessary for inspection, auditing, and checking all things about safety, developing programs, etc. The third is about safety education. So there is a need for orientation and specialized training. They say a well-trained workforce are the eyes and ears of a safety system. It's more than just toolbox talks. Safety training is a line item in each project. For orientation, it's done upon initial hire. Do you do orientation? It's done for all employees. It can also be done for each project, especially when you have a project employees. Formal training is also involved. Now, what about specialized training? I'm sure during this pandemic, most of you got the specialized training. So as needed, it's very important to have the specialized training in biosafety. You have the specialized training in doing the PCR technology. So it's by occasion or you also have specialized training when there is a new equipment, there is a new process. Education and motivation. What is the extent of your new employee orientation? Do you do this? How is safety communicated? What is covered? Do they understand the big picture of safety? I hope you're doing this in your own institution. How do you train? Reading handout. It says here, the reading handout literature is only 10%. Watching videotapes is 30%. Watching a presentation is 50%. Participating in a discussion is 70%. And doing the real thing is 90%. So what's the key point here? The greatest probability of an employee getting injured is in the first 6 months to a year of employment. To effectively manage the risk or injury, you should focus on better educating and motivating the employees. Some believe they should wait to see how an employee will work out before they invest in training. The question should be, how can you tell if an employee will work out if you do not give them the proper tools and education to do so? New hire orientation is an opportunity to set the tone for your new employees and enable them to succeed. Now, how do you train? This is the training sequence. Tell them, show them, have them do it, and follow up. So the focus is to point out that people retain most information when they perform the task, and at least by not just by reading. You have to let them do it and then follow up. Safety education. All employees must know and understand the safety hazards. All employees must know and understand the safety system. All employees must know and understand their safety responsibilities. And this involves hazard identification. So I will not discuss this in detail. It's only very briefly, but these are the steps. Step 1, identify. You should be able to identify the hazard. Step 2 is to assess the hazard. And 3, you make the risk decision before you implement control. What's the necessary control to be used? And step 5 is to supervise. Worker. The fourth is about worker involvement. The old way says reminding someone to work safely is usually considered getting into their business. The new way is reminding someone to work safely is appreciated and considered normal. So in having workers' involvement, we form safety committee, and this allows exchange of ideas and input at all levels. Communication between key personnel promotes a team concept and requires management commitment to ensure issues are addressed. Now, we divide the workers' involvement into behavior-based safety and safety perception survey. Behavior safety reinforce good safety practices. Okay? And when you say you want to reinforce good safety practices, you want to motivate the people, you want to reinforce this, and you want them to show to others that they're doing properly. Safety perception survey, on the other hand, is about feedback loop. So you ask your employees, you seek information from the workers, provides an overview of how workers feel. You can conduct this monthly or as appropriate. Do you have a feedback box in your laboratory. So we can ask even the customers. So we can ask them if for their how they feel about the safety. Number 5 is about evaluation and recognition or reward. The incident rates in the old way, incident rates are the primary measure of success. The new way is safety behavior, safety skills, and contributing to the safety process are used to measure safety success. The old way, safe behavior is encouraged through slogans and posters. Do you still do this? The new way is safe behavior is rewarded as part of the performance process. You use incentive with care. Rewarding large group of people for meeting goals might be rewarding some of them for working unsafely. So, hindi sa lahat ng oras tama or yung positive yung pagbigay ng incentive to group, because there might be some of the people from the group working unsafely. To effectively change behavior, the rewards must always follow a safe act, and at-risk behavior must be corrected at the time of the observation. Positive immediate feedback means you see behavior change. So, rewards and behavior, are there incentive rewards for safe behavior? Do you do this in your institution? Is there a safety suggestion program? Punishment, I mean, when you give rewards positively to improve the performance as a motivation. But sometimes you have to be very careful because it might not be beneficial in the end. So let's see. The behavior or action, you have the positive consequence, you give a reward, because at the end, the employer, the worker will say, I'll do that again. But for negative consequence, it's a punishment. The result is they should be saying, I'm not doing that again. Sometimes punishment is very effective and essential. There will always be behaviors that cannot be tolerated. Meron ba kayong kasamahang ganon? We need to understand how punishment affects the person being punished. When would you use punishment? In severe situation? When there is repeated violation? When knowingly disregard yung binigay mong policies and procedure. So again, it's your safety committee, it's your management involvement to be discreet. So positive and negative reinforcement can both increase behavior, but positive gives the benefit of discretionary effort. Positive reinforcement is not necessarily always beneficial. It can increase undesired behavior as well. Example, kung yung boss mo o yung safety officer mo, sinusuport ka kasi kaibigan ka for violating safety rules. Is that right? Diba? So, meron ding mga negative forces. Now, what's in it for me? Pag-enhance yung culture, it's like a rolling gear na pag pinaandar mo yung isa, sunod-sunod na yung mga dapat motivated yung tao because meron better pay benefit, meron kang better equipment, lower overhead, reduce medical insurance costs, fewer injuries, profit, more opportunity, more satisfied customer, greater productivity, and so on and so on. So, umiikot siya, and hopefully lahat for the betterment, for the good of the institution, for the good of everyone else. The 6th is about planning. So, yung pre-project and pre-task to involve a laboratory safety program The laboratory design and environment must be suitable for the task performed. So, bawat program, bawat things you do, task to do, there is a defined safety program. So, it's divided into workplace safety and compliance with regulation. I mentioned this earlier. So, for workplace safety, the laboratory must have energy sources, the lighting, the ventilation, the water, waste and refuse, disposal, environmental control, and then compliance with regulation. We will have to have the examination, safeguarding samples, resources from unauthorized access, and etc. 7. Why is this included? Drug and alcohol testing. Why? This has been, drug and alcohol testing has been on the rise in recent years. Kasi statistics show that testing programs result in a decrease in work-related accidents and incidents. So they found out that merong mga nag-alcohol o nagda-drugs na nagkakos ng accident or injury in the lab. 8 is written policies and procedures. So policies and procedures provide roadmap to assess successful program, communicates the rights and responsibilities of employer and employees. Practices and procedures. So processes and activities that have been shown in practice to be effective in reducing risk. So you see, they follow procedures. There is a standard policies and procedure followed by each, and for the safety of not only of the workers but also of the patients and environment. And the last is about accident. So it says here, accident is an unplanned event resulting in injury or illness to employees and or property damage. Incident, near miss is almost an accident. So you can see from the figure that mas malaki ang accident kaysa dun sa safety. So ang accident this time has to be investigated for root cause. So we need to identify and abate for address the accident or potential incidents or accidents. All accidents are preventable. Tama ba? Accidents are triggered by behavior. Correct? Kahit nga yung nagdo-driver, bakit ba sila na-accident? Yung nagdo-drive ng kotse or nagdo-drive ng jeepney or whatever, bakit sila na-accident? It's because out of focus sila. So, same thing will happen to you. Old way, unsafe acts and unsafe conditions are the two primary categories of incident investigation. The new way, root causes are determined and analyzed for opportunities to improve the system. The old way, the individuals are afraid to report incidents for fear of doing them hassle. The new way is incident investigations focus on root cause. Hassle is minimized. The value of investigations is recognized and rewarded by management. So, tulong-tulong to find the cause. Bakit ba nagkaroon ng accident? These are different types of accidents. It can be slip, trip, struck by, overexertion, nasaksak, nasundot ng needles, nahulog, na-contact sa heat or cold, na kuryente, na-inhale, na-absorb, na-ingest, na poison. So these are different types of accidents that may happen in the lab. Let's see, what causes accident? Example, the use of defective centrifuges results in an accident. What are the contributing factors? Was he or she properly trained? Did the employee know that he should not be using it? Was he or she reminded not to use it? Why did the supervisor allow its use? Are procedures in place for defective equipment? Other causation, but may not be related to the case, are improper attitude and lack of knowledge or skill. Merong ganyan na, I've never been hurt before, so bakit ba? improper attitude. So, may mga mayayabang dyan. Or, eto, mahilig pang mag-horseplay, defeating safety devices, failure to secure a warrant, operating without authority, nahilig nakikialam, gusto makialam sa hindi siya dapat nandun, working on moving equipment, taking an unsafe position or posture, operating or working at an unsafe speed, unsafe loading, placing, mixing, combining, and failure to use PPE. Unsafe conditions, improper PPE, improper tools, poor housekeeping, improper ventilation, defective equipment, improper illuminations. Kaya all of these things sa environment, those are taken into consideration ng mga safety committee. So they have to look into this, even the lighting, even the positioning, okay? And unsafe, these are personal factors. Fatigue, nako, maraming fatigue na this time. Defective hearing, defective eyesight, so maraming may mga edad na, so still working, pero you can see there are some with defective hearing already or defective eyesight. Muscular weakness, lack of required skill, lack of required knowledge, or ito, intoxication, alcohol and drugs, pumapasok na, pinapayagan bang pumasok ang nakainom? Accident causing factors. So let's make a short description of all this. So let's divide them into basic causes. So yung policy, procedures, the environmental conditions, equipment, the plant design. The indirect causes can be unsafe act or unsafe condition, which we discussed earlier, or direct causes, yun yung nadulas, or na pinch between, naipit, etc. And these are the different causes of accident. Okay, so it's divided into basic causes, indirect causes, and direct causes. Let's take the case of basic causes because we have mentioned already the unsafe act, unsafe condition, and the direct causes. So the basic causes can be the management, environment, equipment, and human behavior. Management involves the systems and procedures. So it can be lack of systems and procedures. It's not available. There is a lack of supervision. Environment is natural and man-made. Can be physical, can be chemical, can be biological. During this pandemic, anong involved natin? It's the biological, right? Equipment, the design and equipment, the workplace layout, design of tools and equipment, and maintenance. Okay, now we will deal at the latter part of this discussion more on human behavior. Are you guilty of doing like this in your lab? Aminin, merong naglilinis na ganyan, no? Pumupwesto ng alanganin. And this can cause accident. Okay? The human factors can be omission and commission. Ano yung omission? Ay, gusto mag-shortcut. Commission. Naku, yung boss ko, gusto ito yung gawin ko, pero very risky naman. And deviation from SOP. Lacking authority, shortcuts, remove guards. Why are there deviations from SOP? Ano yung mga deviation? Walang safe procedure. Employee didn't know safe procedure. So, ito yung mga walang orientation. Employee knew, pero nag-shortcut. Ayaw, tamad. Procedure encourage risk-taking, pero ito yung dapat pag-aralan. So, it has to be measured. There has to be a risk assessment. And employee change approved procedure. Ayoko nung ginagawa nila, babaguhin ko to. Tama ba yun? Okay, thought question. Kung ikaw, what would you do as a worker if you had to take 10 to 15 minutes to don the correct PPE to enter an area just to turn off a control valve which will take you only 10 seconds? Anong gagawin mo? Mag-shortcut ka ba? Just think. All right? So attitude. Are inside the person's head. Therefore, they are not observable nor measurable. But attitudes can be changed by changing behavior. Nakikita natin at ang behavior. Attention. Let's see. Isang factor. Attention is a behavioral safety approach. Focuses on getting workers to pay attention. Lahat ba nagpe-pay attention? Bakit ba nagkaka-accident? Because hindi focus. Right? You can't scare workers into safety focus with pay attention. We're no longer children. Pag sinabi ng teacher ng class, listen, pay attention. We're not like that anymore. So, paano bang ginagawa natin? Let's see. Reasons for lack of attention. Lahat halos kasi nasa cellphone, doing Facebook, diba? Technology nowadays encourage short attention spans. Now, ito yung mga increased job stress caused by uncertainty, means konti lang ang tao, ng staff, ang dami-dami namang trabaho, fast pace of work, little time to learn new tasks and do familiar ones safely. Masyadong familiar na ulit-ulit, repetition can lull works into a loss of attention. And low level of loyalty shown by employees by an ever-reorganizing employer may lead to disinterested workers, detached workers, and inattentive workers. Second is about discipline. Discipline is not the first and only option, but constructive discipline is one method to modify behavior. We have the verbal warning, written warning, suspension, and termination. And the last, is it the last? No, the third is about awareness. Focusing on awareness is a typical educational approach to change safety behavior. O ngayon, alam na natin, pag magsuswab, kailangan naka-complete gear, naka-complete PPE. So we are aware now that we have to be in full gear PPE before going and collecting sample from the patients. Developing personal safety awareness. Before starting, consider how to do the job safely. Understand the required PPE and how to use it. Determine the correct tools. Ensure they are in good condition. Scan the work area. And as you work, check your work position to reduce strain. Any unsafe act or condition should be corrected. Remain aware of any changes in the workplace. Talk to other workers about safety and take safety home with you. And the last is about time. All this sabi nung iba, all this safety stuff takes time. Doesn't it? Totoo. Basta safety, matagal. It takes time. I'm too busy. Wala akong pakialam. Ayoko nang magkailam dyan sa pag-safety. Kailangan ko matapos trabaho ko. I can't possibly do all this. Yung mga sinasabi na, the boss wants the job done now. Ano ba yung safety pa yan? Human behavior. Does rushing through the job, working quickly without considering safety really save time? Remember, if an incident or accident occurs, the job may not get done on time and someone could be injured, and that someone could be you. Regarding the attitude, we often hear managers talk about an employee having bad attitude towards safety or a bad attitude about in general. Or sometimes naman, on the positive sides, meron din this employee has a good attitude towards his job. Pero but we cannot see a person's attitude. What you see are behaviors. Diba? You form an opinion what causes you form an opinion on what is causing that attitude. If our perception on a person's attitude is based on our observation of the behavior, remember that we just said that we can manage behavior. So, meaning, pwede nating i-change yung behavior para maging maganda yung attitude. If we can manage behavior effectively enough, we can get people to perform differently. If they perform differently long enough and are provided with positive reinforcement for their behavior change, their attitude towards safety or particular work tasks will begin to change. Okay? So these are some thought questions. Do you want to work safely? Do you want others to work safely? Do you want to learn how to prevent accidents and injuries? How often do you think about safety as your work? So, dapat part ng work natin talaga ang safety. Some thought questions. Have you ever left something in a walkway that was a tripping hazard? Ginagawa natin yan kuminsan. Have you ever carried stack of boxes that block your view? Ang dami mong kailangan bitbitin na boxes, pero hindi mo na nakikita yung dinadaanan mo. Have you ever used a tool or equipment you didn't know how to operate? Tsambahan. Pwede ba yung tsambahan? Have you ever left a desk or a file drawer open while you work in an area, just like the picture here? Maraming guilty dyan. Have you ever placed something on a stair? Sabihin mo, like magko-collect ka ng sample, pupunta ka sa ward, and may naiwanan ka, iniwan mo lang sa stair yung tool, yung box. Sabi mo, sandali lang. Okay? Have you ever done anything unsafe because I've always done it this way? Okay? So, motivation changes attitude, and attitude drives behavior. When a person's attitude changes, his or her behavior will typically follow, assuming he or she has adequate knowledge of the safe working conditions in the work environment. When you eliminate every other reason for an acceptable behavior, what is left is attitude. Attitude is important. Safety as part of the work is the environment. So you can see from the picture, safety environment, naglilinis muna siya, and then clean yung surroundings. So that's part of safety. So you don't see anything that can cause accident. Safety and peer support. Magagawa mo lang yan. You cannot live alone in the lab. You cannot do it all on your own. So you need the support of the other people. Once safe attitudes are a normal element in the work environment, behavior will be influenced. So gaya-gaya. Then, peers and co-workers expect each other to practice safety as part of the work and not as requirement of the work. Diba? So, naging part and parcel of the work. Sustaining safe behavior, once safety attitudes are a normal element in the work, so behavior will be influenced. Then, peers and co-workers expect each other to practice safety as part of the work. When this moment occurs, the safety culture is born. So management is responsible to promote safety culture. Everyone is responsible for sustaining safety culture. Attitude is the key to sustaining a safe working environment. 4 points to remember for critical components of safety system. The communication, it must be in loop, a dedication from everyone else, partnership between management and employees, and participation, which is an important part of teamwork. Final thought, when you eliminate unsafe environmental conditions, upgrade engineering controls, optimize administrative controls, provide adequate PPE, what is left is attitude. Attitude drives behavior. The end result, when behavior causes management to fully support the program, causes employees to promote safety, contributes to a safe environment, causes a measurable reduction in accidents. What's left? A laboratory safety culture. So in summary, I was able to discuss what is laboratory safety, what is a safe culture, what are the different types of safety, the 9 elements to a systematic approach to improve safety performance, what are the accident causing factors, and the human behavior and attitude to create laboratory safety culture. Thank you. That's the end.
Thank you, Dr. Florento, for that informative and very precise presentation. I am sure our viewers will be able to apply these tips on creating a safety culture in their own laboratories. So we will proceed to our next speaker. Please send your questions, post your questions via the Zoom chat box, and for those on Facebook via the comment section in the BRAP and PAMET Facebook groups homepage. We will read this for the speakers after the second presentation. So without further ado, let us proceed. Our second speaker for this evening is a registered nurse and earned his Bachelor of Science and Masters of Arts in Nursing also from the Royal Pontifical University of Santo Tomas in Manila. He is a certified infection control practitioner of the Certification Board of Infection Control and Epidemiology Incorporated and is likewise professionally certified in biorisk management by the International Federation of Biosafety Associations in Ottawa, Canada. Our speaker worked with Joint Commission International Accredited Hospitals in the Philippines for more than 10 years. And his last job in the Philippines was holding a managerial position in the Infection Control Service at the St. Luke's Medical Center in Quezon City. He is the recipient of the First Hand Hygiene Excellence Award of the Philippines, given by the World Health Organization in 2017, and has received several other infection control recognitions, both local and abroad, like his winning the 2017 Best Biosafety Poster Presentation and Award at the Asia Pacific Biosafety Association Annual Conference in Vietnam. He is an active research contributor for the Infection Prevention Society in the United Kingdom and an active member of the BioRisk Association of the Philippines. Let us welcome our speaker all the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Mr. Bilexter Bonifacio.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Okay. Good evening. So you can hear me. Hi, good evening, everyone. And good morning here in Toronto, Canada. I'm Bill Bonifacio. And thank you, Doc Martin, for the very warm introduction. It's very nice. And it's really a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me here in your webinar sessions. And for this evening there, I plan to discuss the patient safety goals for the laboratory program provided by the Joint Commission International. Okay, so let me open my presentation. All right. Can you see it? All right.
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. So let's start. So for this evening, I'm going to present to you the National Patient Safety Goal for the laboratory program. Okay, so just like to disclose to you that there's no conflict of interest for this presentation. So for our objectives, at the end of the discussion, our participants will be able to describe the 3 national patient safety goals for the laboratories. And then it's better if we can explain back what's the rationale behind each goals. And at the same time, to enumerate the best practices, because I believe that that's really important for us in observing the national patient safety goals for the laboratory in promoting the culture of patient safety. Because I would agree to Ma'am Lei that it is really important for us to observe and promote safety in the laboratory. Okay. For our contents, we're going to see the goal number 1 for the National Patient Safety Goal, which talks about the improved accuracy of patient identification. And then goal number 2, improve the effectiveness of communication among caregivers. And goal number 7, to reduce the risk of healthcare associated infection. All right. So this is a picture of the program that they released back in July 2020. You can find it in the website. It's downloadable. So after this session, you can review it back. So you can see what are the components that you really have to look at in promoting patient safety in your environment. So this is really helpful for both med tech or laboratory managers and at the same time laboratory practitioners. So let's now go to details. Goal number 1, to improve the improve patient identification. So according to their standards, okay, when I talk about standards, it's really amazing how leaders would develop standards. They would try it, they would study it, and then evaluate the results. And once it's settled, they're gonna take it as standards. And for JCI, they're gonna share it to respective partners so that they can implement it. So this is one of the best practices that they can give. The use of at least 2 patient identifiers when providing laboratory services. Okay. Why? Because wrong patient errors occur virtually all stages of diagnosis and treatment. In the preparation, while performing it, and even post-production, wrong patient errors can still occur. And then the intent for this goal is twofold. All right. So first, to reliably identify the individual. So first, you have to identify the individual for whom the service or treatment is intended. So you can match the service and treatment to the individual. Then there has to be an acceptable identifiers, okay, for the individuals. What are these? Could be a name, okay, telephone number, like for outpatient, and then for other specific identifier. There are many. These are just some of the pictures that we can use as best practices, okay. So normally we just have a patient ID band that has patient's name, the birth date, PIN number. So those are the identifiers that you can use. But nowadays, because of with the advent of our technology, some manufacturers can even include pictures. Now, with regards to pictures, it is recommendable to have a certain policy. When are you going to refresh or to how to say that, change the pictures of a patient? Should it be every 6 months? Should it be every admission? So it depends. It depends on the consensus of your organization because, well, it's easy to understand that the looks of of a patient or a person can change over time. Okay. So elements for this is use at least two patient identifiers. Okay. Whether you're administering blood or blood components. Okay. Or collecting blood samples or other specimens for clinical testing and providing other treatments or procedures. The use of patient's number or physical location is not used as an identifier. Let me repeat that. The patient's room number or physical location is not used as an identifier. Why do we need to repeat it over and over again? Because it's so easy for us healthcare workers to say, oh, there's an extraction to room 1. Okay, for patient in isolation 2, something like that. Or in room 732, something like that. It's easy for us because that's how we are oriented in our patient assignment. But we have to change that kind of culture because that doesn't promote patient safety. Okay. And then an example of other procedures that we mentioned is like bone marrow aspirate. I can simply imagine when I was a registered or staff nurse way back then, not so long ago. Okay. I was able to help a colleague when she got in trouble because she placed a wrong sticker when she assisted the physician performing lumbar tap. All right. So imagine spinal fluid is not an easy specimen, right? So it takes a lot of procedure to correct the patient's name and all the details. And for you as a practitioner, you really don't want to undergo that kind of procedure because it's so rigorous. All right. So it is really important at the beginning, you promote patient safety, proper patient identifier during and after. All right. So again, let me repeat that. Patient's room is not an identifier. Okay. And then to add on it, you have to label containers used for blood and other specimen in the presence of the patient. Okay, it is important for us to understand that for us human, it is easy for us to get confused, to experience like confusion and to commit error because of all the things that we're doing. All right. And to make it simple, okay, in the language of quality, okay, you have to make it foolproof. So how to do it? You have to label the specimen in the presence of the patient. Now, how to do it? So make sure now as a laboratory leader or as a laboratory staff, you have to make sure that you have the tools that you can use to label the specimen in the presence of a patient. So that's part of the kit that you have to prepare. You have to prepare ahead. All right. So there. So you really have to bring all those tools at bedside. Okay. Now, in other hospitals or some of the best practices that they do is that they use barcode scanning. All right. Now, in barcode scanning, it is easy because you can also verify the identification of the patient and at the same time the specimen using using a scanner. Okay. Now, in a research talks about patient. Wait, somehow it's covering my view. All right. So the patient and sample identification out of a maze, it was studied I think this is in Italy. And in their study, this is what they found out, that patient and sample misidentification may cause significant harm or discomfort to patient, because if you thought that, oh, we need to extract all over again, then literally it will cause discomfort to your patient. There are many opportunities for misidentification in healthcare and laboratory medicine. So they found out in any point of rendering care, you can experience misidentification. And then efficient and quality care can only start from an accurate patient identification. And we really need to understand, we have to really put it in our culture that the proper patient identification is is part of the complete process, all right, of like performing that certain procedure or diagnostic test. Okay, so let's move on. For any questions, you may put it in the chat box as instructed by Doc Martin. All right, so goal number 2. Okay, I can drag it here. Wait for a while. Okay, improve effectiveness of communications among caregivers. Okay, that's a goal number 2, and it talks about reporting of critical results of tests and diagnostic procedures on a timely basis, because they really have to inform the doctors, the nurses, or anyone who's involved in the care of the critical results of the patients. So it talks about critical result of tests and diagnostic procedures fall significantly outside the normal range and may indicate a life-threatening situation. The objective is to provide the responsible licensed caregiver these results within an established time frame so that the patient can be promptly treated. Okay. All right. And for you to be able to do that, it is really a teamwork effort. It's an effort of everybody, starting from the caregiver, from the patient's point of area, to the laboratory, to the physician who ordered it, and for all of these things in conceptualizing what is the critical value, what is considered dangerous. So those kind of things are discussed by your core committee. And for you to understand that, you have to do a plan, do, study, act, which is a process in quality management. And it will help you to understand the standards and how to create standards in your own healthcare setting. Okay. So the elements of performance for this standard is to collaborate with organizational leaders to develop written procedures for managing critical results for tests and diagnostic procedures that address the following. Okay, so you have to define the critical results of tests and diagnostic procedures, and normally for physicians, it varies whether you are a hematologist or you are an endocrinologist and others. It's based on their recent studies. And as for you as healthcare workers, as leaders, you really have to talk about it so you can study and at the same time adapt what are the latest or the recent studies or the values that you need to consider and declaring it as critical. Okay? And by whom and to whom critical results of tests and diagnostic procedures are reported. And then at the same time, you need to learn and evaluate the acceptable length of time between the availability and reporting of critical results, okay, for the test and diagnostic procedures. How long? How long should you report it? Okay, or how quick? Let's put it that way, how quick? And at the same time, should we evaluate that? Should we evaluate um, the time that this certain result was relayed to the nurse or to the doctor. So it is important that as hospital or as healthcare facility, we have that kind of information so that we can improve our system if most of the results were relayed in a delayed manner, or are we doing really good that when the laboratory flagged the nursing unit, so is the nurse there responsible in relaying it to the doctor, was relayed fast? So there has to be an evaluation for that too. Okay. And then we have to implement the procedures for managing the critical results of tests and diagnostic procedures. Okay, and then evaluate the timeliness as mentioned. It is really important for us to see. Like example, if it is a life-threatening result, do you think it is okay if it was relayed 15 minutes later? I don't think so. Okay, as if you really need to shout it out that this patient has a very bad critical result that has to be addressed. Okay. By the way, thank you very much for all the questions. I was able to read some of them. Later, we're going to answer them. Okay. So just keep it up. So now, let me show you. There's a study again done in Thailand. Okay, it's titled Critical Value of the Clinical Laboratory Test in Thailand. And they're trying to evaluate the practices of each and every laboratory with regards to these critical value results. Okay, so this is what they found out, that the critical values are the values of the laboratory testing results which are required attention or action by the physicians. It is really important that our physicians are involved in this kind of like best practices. And it was found that there are many factors which govern the implementation of critical values. And that's where our principle of collaboration comes into place. We can really find that there is no certain way, like a rigid way to do it, but you really have to work it out as an institution, so you can really best tailor fit it according to your needs. Because example, I can imagine one best practice that they may say is that, oh, once these results are out, we can page the physician or we can page the nurse, okay, at bedside. Now the problem is, wait, we don't have a pager, and we don't have this certain communication technology. Now, in that case, you really have to, it's not that, okay, let's buy that thing, that device. No, more than that, we have to think about how can we facilitate it, even if we have these resources only. Okay, so you really have to tailor fit it based on the resources that you have and the environment that you are in. Okay, because it depends also what kind of facility you are into. Okay, now, so again, for any questions, please just put it in the chat box. We're able to read them, and thank you. Okay, so we're now go to the next goal. So for this session, I'm going to give you only 3 take-home points, okay? 3 goals, and I hope you will remember them at the end of the session, okay? So let's review. First is the patient identifier. Second is the improved communication, especially for the critical results. And the next is, okay, my favorite, reducing the risk of healthcare-associated infections, okay? Talks about the infection, and it's very timely for us. um, speaking in front of the laptop is really, it really feels different speaking compared to speaking in front of many people. But we are in a different times right now. So I hope um, you learn something, and at the same time you're able to appreciate some of the points or most of the points that we are giving you here. Okay, so let's move on. So for the goal 7, they're asking us to comply with either the current CDC hand hygiene guidelines or the WHO guidelines, which talks about um, hand hygiene standards. And for this session, we're going to discuss mostly on the WHO. All right. So for the elements of performance, number 1 is to implement a program that follows categories 1A. What I mean is recommendation 1A, 1B, and 1C for either CDC or WHO. Okay, and you can find all these resource materials online. And it is really nice that in the advent of the internet, okay, of our technology, a lot of resources, okay, are available, and you can read them, and you can really just apply it in your own respective institutions. Okay, and then for hand hygiene, it's not that you're going to comply with the standards. You have to set goals. It is important for us to set a goal about your hand hygiene compliance. Is that oh, we're just having 30%. Okay, so kasi ang hirap nilang pasunurin eh. It's so hard for them to comply. Oh, but what's your goal? So make sure your goal is SMART, okay? It's attainable. Remember, it's part of the SMART, it's attainable. And so you can set your goals gradually, okay? So if you're scoring 30%, maybe you can goal 10% higher. So you can move on to 40 and then move on. When you achieve the 40, you can move on, and you can move on and move on, all right? And the next, I'm also checking my time. Okay. Okay, so next is to improve compliance with hand hygiene guidelines based on established goals. So you really have to check the guidelines for this. Let's see the studies made abroad. Wait. Okay, so the title is Implementation of Proper Hand Hygiene Among Microbiological Laboratory Workers respectively to WHO guidelines. Okay, it was done in letter M. There, Macedonia. Okay, I found it in Macedonia, and it talks about their practice in the laboratory. So you can see it is really important for us to promote and to observe hand hygiene in the laboratory setting. Why? Because number 1, we're dealing with infectious and hazardous agents. And at the same time, we need to protect ourselves and others in spreading it, to prevent the spread, what I mean. Okay, because in all the surfaces, that we are working on, we may spread it. And that's why part of it is performing hand hygiene and at the same time performing surface disinfection. Okay, so imagine a lot of these points. Okay, these points, these points, these points. Okay, they are considered what? Risk for contamination. I'm not saying they're already contaminated, but there may be a risk that they may be contaminated because of constant touching. Okay. All right. So hand hygiene basically is the single most effective way to prevent the transmission of disease. And practicing good hand hygiene during healthcare reduces the risk of these infections and spread the antimicrobial resistance. Imagine that just because you're performing hand hygiene, okay, you are already eliminating okay, and reducing the chance of having antimicrobial resistance in your healthcare facility. And that's amazing because we are reducing the chance of spreading these healthcare associated infections to our patients, okay, through what? Through touching, through direct or indirect touching. All right. There's even a study conducted by a friend of mine, Dr. Didier Pité of WHO, okay, in Switzerland. He claimed that just by performing hand hygiene, that is already the 50% of the entire infection prevention and control program of your hospital. And it can really make it effective. Okay? Very effective, very efficient. And then let me show you more information about it. Okay. Of course, I'm not going to let it pass by, not introducing the one and only Dr. Ignace Semmelweis. Okay, Dr. Semmelweis is known as the father of infection control. Okay, he is the one who initiated a mandatory hand washing policy for medical students and physicians during his time. He is, I think he is an OB-GYN practitioner, and he found out that how come there's a lot of maternity deaths that's occurring in a certain period. And then as he performed an analysis or contact tracing of sort of, he realized that these doctors, while they are teaching and studying along with the students with the use of these cadavers, they're not performing hand hygiene before taking care or delivering babies to the pregnant moms. And that's the reason why there's an increase of infection and increase of mortality. And that's why he required them, okay, to wash their hands. During that time, there's no hand sanitizer or alcohol hand rub. They used lime, okay? And I think water and lime. Ayan. But during that time, he was perceived as crazy because for them hand hygiene is not it's just bothersome practice, okay, estorbo, okay. And I believe even up to this point that is still the same thing. And I'm thinking you might also think that I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm just, and the study really shows that when you perform hand hygiene, okay, you can really reduce the spread of infection throughout your hospital. Okay, so physicians resisted these changes. Okay, and washing of hands before treating each patient would be too much work. So that's what they claim. All right, but let me show you how to improve your hand hygiene program in your facility. So with the use of what? With the use of the WHO multimodal hand hygiene improvement strategy. Okay, so based on the evidence and recommendations of WHO, okay, there are 5 core components to improve hand hygiene in healthcare settings. Number 1, you really have to have a system change of it. Okay, you have to change the system. You have to look out what are the resources that you have right now and how can you change it. Make sure the hand hygiene facilities are accessible to all your healthcare workers. Number 2, you have to perform good training and education to all your healthcare workers. Number 3, you really need to give a good evaluation and feedback among them. Okay, while you're monitoring the hand hygiene practices, you really need to give them the feedback, whether to the certain individual or to the leader of their group or to the top management. It's really good for us to understand the evaluation or the compliance that we have with regards to hand hygiene. And then 4, reminders in the workplace. You really have to be creative. Make sure these reminders doesn't sit for a long time. You really have to change it over and over again. Why? Because people will get used to it. Okay? Masasanay sila. And it will be just like oh, it's just a display or a design or a painting there. But make sure your reminders in the workplace uh, is still effective. All right. And then 5, okay, is the institutional safety climate. Individual active participation and institutional support, and even patient participation for this. And that's the reason why we really have to engage our clients and our patients rather, okay, in this certain practice. All right. So we all know the 5 moments of hand hygiene. Okay. The 5 moment talks about before touching a patient. So if you are going to extract a blood or any other specimen, you really have to perform hand hygiene first. And then now before performing the aseptic procedure, you have to do it again. All right. And then after you get exposed with the body fluid or even just the risk, and then after touching a patient or after touching a patient's surroundings, it's either 4 or 5. It's not 4 and 5. All right. So 1, before touching a patient. 2, before clean and aseptic procedure. 3, after body fluid exposure or risk. And last, it's either after touching a patient or after touching patient surroundings. All right. So this is Mr. or Dr. Didier Pité from Switzerland. I met him there in Manchester back in 2017 and in Glasgow, Scotland in 2018 when I presented our team's effort, okay, our research abstracts in improving our infection control programs in our hospital then. Okay, he's the one who promoted clean care is safer care and save lives, clean your hands. Or okay, siya yan. Okay, so here he was able to describe what are the importance of the 5 moments of hand hygiene, and there was even a debate between the 5 moments and just 1 moment. But again, he was able to explain, you know what, these 5 moments actually originated from 150 moments. Okay, 150 moments back then, and then we're able to think about it, process it thoroughly, and then realize let's trim it down to 5 moments. All right, so this is the free tool that you can use to evaluate hand hygiene compliance in your facility. But there are some innovations that you can use as best practices. There are different apps that you can use. All right. Okay. I'm not promoting the product, but this app was provided by certain product. But there are a lot of freewares, both in Apple or in Android, where you can audit your hospital's hand hygiene compliance, and immediately it can create a graph for your compliance. So this is how it looks like inside. So you just simply tap, okay, which moment the healthcare worker, whether a nurse or a medtech, a physician, a medical intern, or even a food server has performed when he encountered or when he entered the patient's room. All right. And then it can simply give you a graph, okay, to compare. So you can see, it can show for moment number 1, this is the compliance for that certain unit. Moment 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then it will create an average of all. Okay. In that certain app, you can even modify it, okay, with certain details, so you can have a better analysis for all the information that you have. And then now you can collate it, put it in a graph, present it to the different departments. So maybe I'm talking to infection prevention control practitioners, okay, and also for medtechs, okay. If you are how do you call that, a champion of hand hygiene in your facility, you can do this too. right? And it's very interesting. All right. And even to the point that you can analyze the alcohol-based consumption and the liquid soap consumption that you have in your facility. Is it directly proportional to your hand hygiene compliance? If not, then you can think, are these data really valid or true? So you can evaluate further. It's nice. Okay, and then you can engage your patients. Okay, so I'll shout out to my colleagues back there in St. Luke's. I used our old photo and a poster to just show our involvement to our patients. Okay, back then to promote hand hygiene. All right, and shout out to our friends there in PAMET and also in St. Luke's Medical Center, QPS, infection control, and of course, in the lab. All right. And then this is what I also found in other international facilities or world-class hospitals. They are really having a lot of access for these hand washing facilities. And look at this in the right hand side, you can really see they even translated their message in the different languages. Okay, actually this has a lot of examples, not only Arabic, there's a Chinese version of this and a lot. Okay, so you can be creative. Some they use cartoons, some they use stickers on the floor. So it's really up to you. So make it visible, make it do its work, no, to remind the healthcare workers. Okay, so now to give you the summary, okay, my time is up. Give you the summary. Our goal, again, my take home for you is proper identification, improve communication, and prevention and control of infection through hand hygiene. All right. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something with all the things that I discussed. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye. If you have questions, naputol na. Okay. If you have questions, just post it there in the comment section. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Bill, for that updated information and very intense lecture. I'm sure the audience felt the intense of your what do you call this? Your advocacy ever since. Again, as the speaker said, please send your questions via Zoom chat box, and for those in Facebook via the comment section at the BRAP or the PAMET Facebook page. We will read this for our speakers starting now. While the speakers were talking, I was able to see discussion already within the Zoom meeting area until finally somebody said, thank you for your comment, but I would like to hear also the comment of the speaker. Okay, there's one question here for either Dr. Florento or Sir Bill. Can lack of endorsement to colleagues in the laboratory result also in accidents? For what instance, or can you give an example? Thank you.
Yeah,
I think this one is for Ma'am Laila.
Yeah, I'll answer that. Yeah, correct. It can cause accident if you don't endorse properly. And to give you a correct example, I mean, an example of that, which really happened many years ago, is something about the centrifuge, my favorite centrifuge. Um, at the start, the centrifuge, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
The centrifuge was already making a sound, but the supervisor did not mind the sound. So, meaning, hindi niya pina-repair, hindi niya pina-check, basta sabi lang, umuugong. So, when it's my turn to work, yung hindi pinansin na pag-ugong ng centrifuge na ako na yung gagamit. So, nang umandar, sumabog na si centrifuge. So, it's a good thing wala naman tinamaan dun sa pagsabog kasi yung takip na yung bumigay. So, it can really cause accident if not properly endorsed na something is wrong with the equipment, something is, and then be careful. Dapat merong magsasabing gano'n na if you're the one very conscientious about it, hindi mo nagagamitin and papa-repair, papa-check mo muna. Pero if pareho kayong hindi handa, pareho kayong, how do you call it, pariwara, then really accident can happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Florento, Ma'am Laila, to everybody. The next question I see here, I think it will be for Sir Bill. Could you please compare the effectiveness of alcohol-based hand rub to hand washing?
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you for that question. It's always a question for us. No, infection prevention is like which is the effective one? Hand hygiene, alcohol hand rub, or hand washing with the use of soap and water. Hello? Puputol-putol ako? Hello? Hello? Okay. So now, okay. When experts studied about it, it's really a comprehensive information na they considered. No? Aside from the effectiveness, they also discussed about the accessibility and when are you going to do it. Now, based on the guidelines right now, they are promoting and they said it's better to perform hand hygiene with the use of alcohol hand rub. Why? Because it's fast, it's fast, it's accessible, and at the same time you can really perform the 5 moments, which is really very important in the part of prevention of the spread. All right. But now there is an exemption. If you're taking care of a patient with C. difficile, you really have to perform hand washing with the soap and water. All right. And now the question is, sir, what about our hands condition if you're going to use a lot of alcohol? And that's the reason why part of the standards or the component of an alcohol hand rub is to have a good emollient. And sometimes we can even promote the yung hand cream, okay, at the end of the shift, something like that. So meron mga suppliers that they can provide you that. But again, with regards to effectiveness, mas effective pa rin si alcohol hand rub kasi mas lagi mo siyang ginagawa, okay, compared sa using soap and water. And at the same time, there's a study that we read, I think back in 2015, mas frequent kang gumamit ng soap. The more you use soap and water, it's more damaging to the hand than with the alcohol. It's amazing to learn about that. Because all the while we thought soap and water is better, it's milder. But when we realize, oh, the alcohol hand rub is milder actually. So there, it's really amazing to learn that. Ayun po.
Okay, thank you, Sir Bill. Here is a question. I suppose Ma'am Laila will answer this because it refers to the PRC. Ma'am Laila, can you give real life situation where the Medtech's PRC ID was revoked due to safety negligence?
I have not heard of any PRC revocation due to safety. Wala. I have not heard anything about it. Kung maraming cases, yes, but none about safety. And thank God for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. There's another question addressed to you, Ma'am
Yeah.
Laila. The award punishment system as a form to change behavior is quite interesting. If it is monetary award, can it be incorporated in the annual budget, especially in government hospitals?
What I know is it's incorporated in performance. So if your institution has merit rating, di ba, at least every 6 months, merong merit rating. That's incorporated and that's included in the merit rating. It's not directly you cannot directly see the monetary involvement there, pero it is in the merit rating. When you're given a good merit, merong mga points na equivalent yan, and probably at the end it will be equivalent to monetary also. Can be promotion, can be at the end pagka meron kayong annual review, annual performance, job performance, so you can be given credit for that. So if you want your institution to incorporate award system, then your safety committee can make a program out of that, and then yes, you can include that in your budget, and that's a good promotion. That's a good um, recommendation for safety performance. Okay, thank you. There's one question
Thank
here.
you, Dr. Laila.
Dr. Martin, somebody
Yes po.
somebody gave a private message regarding the use of sa lab shoes, yung uniform, the lab laboratory gown in the lab, di ba? We use uniform. Most of the time, naka-lab gown tayo in the lab. I know we're not supposed to wear the lab gown outside of the lab. Dapat andun lang siya kasi for safety purpose, hindi dapat makontaminate or tayo nagkakalat ng germs. Dapat yung lab gown natin dun lang sa area mo. When you go out, when you go to the canteen, kailangan hindi mo suot yung lab gown. Or the same thing, kung naka-scrub suit, dapat kung lalabas ka ng kalye, hindi ka nakasuot ng scrub suit, correct?
That's
Now,
right. That's right.
this particular question is about the laboratory shoes. Ano bang klaseng laboratory shoes dapat sa loob ng lab? Hindi chinelas, di ba? Kasi the chinelas is open. And kung nasa loob ka ng lab, pwedeng matapon ng acid. Mas prone to accident. So dapat ang nanong suot mo, may special shoes, may naka rubber shoes, closed shoes, dapat naka-closed shoes ang gamit. Am I correct, Dr. Martin?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Hindi
Absolutely.
hindi dapat open toes ang lab shoes.
Yes po.
Right? Kasi yung iba, ewan ko kung bakit nga ba naman merong times na naggawan, like for example, nag-culture sa culture lab. Nag-change tayo sa loob. Pero it's supposed to be an enclosed shoes. Kaya lang yung iba, chinelas yata yung ginagamit sa loob ng lab, sa loob na enclosed lab. I think the proper way is to use a closed shoes inside the laboratory.
Uh-huh. Very well explained, ma'am, with your example pa. Okay, there's one, I don't know if it's a comment or a question. The speaker mentioned, quote unquote, label in the presence of the patient. What if the patient is contagious? Can we do the labeling outside to minimize exposure? I think this is for Sir Bill because he's talking about patient identifiers, maybe. Go ahead,
All
Sir
right.
Bill.
Yeah, thank you. That's mine. Okay. I think doing it outside is still part of the labeling in the presence of the patient as long as you're there. The principle there is that you're not gonna label it in the nurse's station. You're not gonna label it na in your laboratory. Okay, maybe after you went out of the facility, you can label it. Or if you can just see, because okay, again, this is case to case situation, because other facility they already have a sticker, okay, and it's already prepared. So once you collected it, you just have to attach it. That's it. But if you're talking about performing like the manual method, then it's a case to case scenario. The point is, the principle perhaps under it is that you're not going to another patient or to another location prior to labeling the certain specimen, so that you're not going to have a confusion or mixed information about labeling the specimen. Yeah. I hope I was able to answer it.
I think so, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
If I may say, from a biosafety officer point of view, when you enter the patient who is supposedly contagious, I'm sure you are already in the proper PPE. So you can do anything safely in front of the patient. And then when you doff your PPE, you do the necessary decontamination of the materials you use. I think that's how you approach it from a by safety person's point of view.
Yeah. And also to promote BRAP, those questions that you're asking about, like the shoes, the uniform, those are the things that are being discussed in BRAP. So stand by. Always connect to BRAP, okay?
Oh, by the way, for those questions which will not be able to answer tonight, we will send them to the speakers so that they will answer them on their time, and they will send it to us, and then we will post it just like the other 4 speakers before you. 4 webinars, I mean 5 webinars, they're all posted at the official webpage of BRAP, which is Biosafety Association Philippines.org. It's there. The next question. I think the one who gave this question is living in another country, and the language there is somewhat different. A patient comes in the laboratory alone, but the patient is deaf. He's showing an ID, a valid way of identifying the patient's profile. That's for you, I think, Sir Bill.
Okay. So we're talking about disability, right? So the patient cannot hear, is deaf. Is that right?
The patient is deaf.
Yeah. Okay. So this inability to hear. Okay. So part of it is that uh, this is already talking about hospital processes. Like this
Mhm.
portion is more on the admission part. So normally, uh, every time that they provide this ID band, they are asking several questions or proof of patient's identification, so that during the period that we are going to validate their ID band, we are already somehow assured that this information from the patient ID band, whether the patient can speak or not, or can hear or not, is valid. So those things again is a part of the collaboration effort of the entire healthcare system that can help us.
Okay. I think that was well answered. Uh, a question. I was looking at one question. It moved up so fast. That's for you again, Sir Bill. Alcohol versus hand washing versus gloves. All are best practices. Question, kailangan bang magpalit ng gloves kada pasyente sa extraction? Magastos as mas madaming trash. Personally, may comment na siya. Personally, I give the patient alcohol in their 2 hands. Pinapaabot ko hanggang braso, and also I do alcohol application in front of the patient para makampante din siya. Okay lang po ba ito?
All right. So before I answer that, I think most of us would agree, and also in the part of biosafety, is that infection prevention control is really dealing about the risk of contamination or infection. Okay, so it's deals about risk. So now talking about hand hygiene, hand washing, and alcohol hand rub versus donning of gloves, they're not in the same level. All right, because let's go on to hand sanitizer or alcohol hand rub and gloves. Okay, it's not or, it's both. Okay, when you use the gloves, right, you have to perform hand hygiene first. When you remove the gloves, you need to perform hand hygiene as well. Okay, so it doesn't eliminate the fact that you need to perform hand hygiene when you're wearing gloves. Okay, and I think I already answered the portion of hand washing with the use of soap and water. But
Yes,
now,
that's right.
looking forward, there's a lot of waste related to it. And I would agree. Those wastes are part of our culture of safety and quality. Imagine if you're not going to change your gloves, the question is, when are you going to change your gloves? If not, how well can it protect you? And at the same time, how well can it protect the patient against the spread of infection? So based on the recommendation, the study, and again, that's the reason why it's called disposable gloves. After you use it, you really have to dispose it, okay? Because the integrity of the gloves cannot assure us, no, like, can it be used for a longer time? I do not know. No, that's why I can remember when I use it for so long, it get discolored. Nakikita niyo na ba yun? Di ba? And then it feels different already. And sometimes it smells different when you remove it. So you have to really remove it immediately after you use it. Um, Tapon or sayang, it's part of the quality. And that's the reason why, uh, alam mo yung kasabihan na this is done by professionals. And part as being professional, ganyan talaga tayo. Kailangan natin i-consider yung quality. Alright? Unlike pag ginagawa mo elsewhere, like, di ba? Pag hindi standard, pwedeng wala ng gloves, pwedeng merong gloves, pwedeng wala ng alcohol, basta matusukan mo na lang. No? So you have to perform standard because we understand that those things supports patient safety and quality standards in our practice. Ayun. Salamat po. Sana sagot ko.
Thank you, Sir Bill. We have just a few minutes left. So I will pick this question for Ma'am Laila. What if the seniors or the regular workers of the laboratory are those who are not following or promoting proper hygiene or cleanliness and safety? How are we gonna encourage or correct them? Ma'am Laila, kayo muna for the safety issue, and then Sir Bill, a few words about hygiene and cleanliness. Senior ang may problema, ayaw sumunod.
And actually, ang hirap sagutin, ano? Kasi senior ang may problema. And I'm one of the seniors. Kasi ngayon, iba na kasi ngayon ng if before, nung araw, hindi masyadong issue ang safety.
Last na, Sir Bill.
Ngayon, the safety is very much, siya yung dapat, doon tayo nakafocus, lalo na ngayong pandemic. Ngayon pa ba naman hindi sila magpo-focus on safety, meron tayong pandemic. And ang senior pa ang most prone and most vulnerable to the pandemic case, the COVID case. So, dapat lang by this time, they realize na if they won't follow safety, if they will not follow the procedure and the protocol, sila din ang kawawa, yung mga seniors ang kawawa. If the juniors have an idea, sila yung nakapag-train properly, sila yung nakakuha ng good training on safety, then they should show. Di ba yung sabi, let them, if you learn it, you teach them, you show them, and then do it para makascade sa iba yung good behavior. So it start from them and let them ipabayaan yung i-show to the others, especially the senior ones, how to do it. And of course, kung good behavior yan, kung good practice, they will follow. Right?
That's right. Yep. They will set the example and
Yes,
the
they will.
seniors will follow. Sir Bill, a few words at sinisenyasan na akong lipat na tayo.
All right. So I want to elaborate it on a level ng administration level and decision making. But let me give you an example. When we promoted hand hygiene, it started really on the top level management. If you remember, we have a picture of the hospital's president. Both of them, they're promoting hand hygiene. And there has to really be a culture na, like for me, example, there was a time that I forgot to perform hand hygiene when I got out of patient's room. And then one of my staff reminded me, "Sir, maganawash ka." Ay, yeah, oo nga pala. So, like for us leaders, we really need to have that attitude na pag na-correct din tayo, it's okay. So we can promote it because we really have to be in one page in doing it. It's not that, boss ako, I'm not gonna do it. Boss naman ako eh. Nobody's gonna wala naman ako makukuha demerit. It's not like that. We have to be one page to it because it really talks about safety of the entire hospital. All right? So yun lang
Yes.
po. Very quick one.
Well said, Sir Bill. Okay, so that ends our question and answer. For the questions which are not answered, as I said earlier, we will send them to the speakers who will answer them on their own time, and then we will post them at the official BRAP webpage. Okay, so I am tasked to do the synthesis. Dr. Florento opened her presentation by saying, culture change in an organization of any size is not a simple process, since we have to look into numerous elements that build and sustain a strong foundation of a safety culture. She emphasized also that well-functioning laboratory services are crucial for improving public health and that laboratories abiding by international quality and safety standards are essential for strong health systems. We were made to understand that safety is a positive value, which by evidence from the literature presented, injuries save lives and improve productivity and outcomes. The safety culture of your institution is a reflection of the actions, attitudes, and behaviors of its members concerning safety. Sir Bill opened his lecture by re-emphasizing Dr. Florento's statement that laboratory is a unique environment. A strong safety culture is required to protect employees. This culture emanates from ethical, moral, and practical considerations. He reiterated that the human factor is a principal element in most circumstances that causes harm. In response, the Joint Commission International released the national standards in July of 2020 this year to guide healthcare professionals in promoting patients safely in their respective laboratory settings. With that much said by our two resource speakers, let us take home their words and apply them to our daily lives within the confines of the walls of your own laboratory. Thank you very much, Dr. Florento and Sir Bill Bonifacio, for a very precise, I must say, and safe lecture. I hope everybody learned something tonight. I will take this opportunity to invite everyone, especially the official BRAP and PAMET members, to the 5th founding anniversary of BRAP on September 2, which is a Wednesday. We start off with a Thanksgiving Mass officiated by His Eminence Archbishop Ramon Arguelles of the Archdiocese of Lipa, then followed by the actual Zoom program, which starts at 6 p.m. We have two 20-minute presentations by the presidents of BRAP and PAMET, and a trivia quiz following the celebration, and top scorers will receive free registration to the first physical annual convention by either PAMET and BRAP. So don't miss the opportunity, my dear members. And as I promised, here is a treat for Facebook viewers now. Copy the link which will be shown on Facebook by Sir Oliver in a few seconds. And you will be able to access the post-lecture quiz from Facebook. Answer the post-webinar evaluation and post-test using the link to be flashed in the succeeding slide. Double-check your email address and full name before submitting your post-test. You need to garner at least 60% score in the post-test to merit an e-certificate with a single attempt. The e-certificate will be sent to your registered email access address within 5 working days. The link will only be open for the next 30 minutes. So with that, I want to thank everybody for staying with us up to the post-test. Thank you to our 2 resource speakers, Dr. Laila Florento and Sir Bill Bonifacio, all the way from Canada. You may take your breakfast now, Bill. Okay, so maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat and good luck sa post-test.